There are three things I think BC really needs to do if they're going to knock off Georgia Tech. One on the offense, some on the defense, and just general game plan. I'm going to get into all that. You're going to know everything on today's Locked On BC.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black, editor and publisher of 247's Eagle Insider. Hope you're all doing well. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It is our daily fantasy favorite spot to go here on Locked On BC. Check out Prize Pick and use promo code Locked On College to get a special deal. All right, so we are now 48 hours away from BC resuming their schedule against Georgia Tech. And as I said to kick this off, I think this is the biggest game they've had all year. You know, every game is important, but where they sit at 3-3 with bowl eligibility, momentum, as I keep bringing back to that momentum, they've got to win this game. This is must win. It's a must win for Jeff Hafley. It's a must win for this program. They have to go to Atlanta and they got to beat the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. So looking at each group here in their whole, what does BC have to do to win? How is BC going to win this game? And there's a few things that we need to look at. Let's start by looking at the offense. What an offense is concerning about BC has been the interceptions from Thomas Castellanos, one against UVA and one against Army. And he's young. He makes mistakes. But what worries me when I look at Georgia Tech's turnover ratio, they have 13 turnovers. They do it in bunches. They had 5 against Miami. They had 5 in another game and 3 in another. So BC is going to have to be careful. I hope one of my big things of it this weekend, this past week, you know, when you hear the staff saying that they've been looking at film, trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. I hope that with Castellanos that you now had 2 weeks, that you can start to look at the areas of need for this quarterback. What are the things that he isn't doing well that he needs to fix? Throwing some bad passes and not getting the ball where he needs to on some of those is important, but it's not all on him too. You know, turnovers are going to happen. Luckily, I saw the weather for this game. It's going to be beautiful. Finally, after kind of gross weather against Florida State, gross weather against UVA, gross weather against Army, BC will play. It looks like it's going to be like 75 and sunny. I'm kind of jealous I can't get down to Atlanta to see this game because it sounds perfect for me, right? But that's going to help with, you know, gripping the ball for Castellanos and throwing it, for preventing fumbles, things like that. I think that is going to be key. Now, in terms of their offense, what can BC do? Like, if I'm looking at this game, do I think BC should throw the ball more or should run the ball, or should they just try to be balanced? And you know, Georgia Tech has had their moments, you know, on defense. They allow an average, they've averaged, you know, quarterbacks have thrown for 60% against them. They've allowed 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So passing, they're not that bad. Rushing, same things. They're not a bad defense when you're looking at the grand scheme of things. But one thing that I have seen that I still think is going to be their run defense is atrocious. I don't know what I just said. Their rush defense is one of the worst in the country. So should BC rewrite the wheel here and just force yourself to throw when they have a decent pass defense? No. I think when I look at this offense, a little bit more of what we saw against Army wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Obviously, I'd love to see them throw the ball. I'd love to see Lewis Bond get involved, and I don't know if Ryan O'Keefe is going to be back. But if Georgia Tech can't stop you when you're running the ball, and they haven't had much experience against mobile quarterbacks. Last time we watched them against a sort of mobile quarterback in Phil Dracovic, he ran all over them, and that's I believe Brent Key was the defensive coordinator then. If they can do that, that's what you want to do. You want to run the ball. You want to keep Haynes King on the sidelines. You don't want to let him get out there and get in any sort of rhythm. So if BC can get behind their hogs, if they, you have your big time offensive linemen still there, and hopefully Trapilo will be there, and you can use Conley as your 6th offensive lineman. Let guys like George Takis do their thing. Run the ball down their throat. Control the clock. Don't let their offense back on the field or get in any sort of rhythm, and just pound them out. When you're playing a team that has allowed an average of 215 yards per game, you lean in on that. They have not allowed the last game that they played against Miami was the least amount of rushing yards they allowed, which is 165. Not bad. Then they had 175 against Bowling Green, but they allowed basically 300 yards against Mississippi, 227 against Louisville, 225 against Wake Forest. They have allowed 13 rushing touchdowns. This game is prime for a big game from Pat Garwo, Kai Robichaud, and even Thomas Castellanos on the ground. This is perfect. This is what you should be doing. Like if Georgia Tech, they have been very good at intercepting and keeping opposing quarterbacks from tearing them apart. Hit them where it hurts. Hit them on the ground. Do what you need to do there, and everything else will come to you. And in our second segment, I'll explain why that kind of leads into how the defense can also do what they need to do to win this game as well. But before I do that, I want to tell you about Locked On ACC. Locked On ACC is hosted by Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. They are amazing. They are the best. Check out them if you want to learn more about the ACC. So check that out. Now, there is unrest in the middle. If you're looking for daily fantasy sports, I need to tell you about our valued Prize Pick partner. As an experienced creator who understands them, I love what Prize Picks can bring. I've been looking at Prize Picks right now. I was checking them out. I was looking at what the NFL has this weekend, because when I'm watching NFL, I love to do daily fantasy sports. It's my thing. And Prize Pick does it the best. I was looking at quarterbacks. I was looking at who they had available. Kenny Pickett at 219.5 yards. I was like, man, I'm going to take the under on that. And then I was looking at an over, and I saw that Josh Allen at 255.5. There you go. I'm going to make my 2 picks and see how I do this weekend. So easy, and with quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes Prize Pick the #1 daily fantasy app out there. And with the Prize Picks reboot system, you're in entry state even if your player gets injured. For NFL's and college football top 25 matchups, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return, the player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports player platform with injury insurance. That is incredible. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first match up to $100. Again, check it out. Daily fantasy at prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It is daily fantasy sports made easy. Check out Prize Picks today. Locked On BC, I'm your host, AJ Black, and we're getting into what's going on this weekend in Atlanta. Boston College and the Yellow Jackets. The Yellow Jackets, you can get different odds everywhere. FanDuel had them at 4.5-point favorites. I'm not sure I'm there yet. I think this game could sneakily be a BC game. And yeah, I know I'm a BC guy, so I'm a little bit more slanted towards picking the Eagles. But when I'm looking at this game, the biggest factor to me isn't the offense, because I truly believe BC's offense should be able to move the ball against Georgia Tech. That their offense has not been an issue really in any game this year other than the NIU game at the very beginning of the season. It's the defense. The defense needs to step up. They need to have a bigger game than what we've been seeing. Now, Jeff Hafley, he believes that they've turned the corner, the defense. He said this on Monday, that the defense has turned the corner and they're going to be more successful after they saw the second half of the UVA game where they held them to 3 points, the Army game where they held them to 3 points in the first half, and he didn't really talk about the second half of the Army game because it wasn't very good, right? But he feels like it's taking that next step. And this game is going to be a challenge for this defense. And I think what BC just needs to make sure that they do in this game is really load up in terms of getting your faster guys out there, because Georgia Tech is a running team. They can run the ball, but they're not super they're not one of the most like effective rushing offenses in the country. They're much more effective passing the ball. So, I think they're a balanced team, but when you're looking at how you want Georgia, they're 83rd in rushing, by the way. Haynes King is going to be the guy you're going to watch for. And I heard a question today at the press conference where someone asked whether Haynes King is not, they assumed he wasn't a mobile quarterback. Haynes King can run. Keeping him in the pocket will be important. Making him hold on to the ball a little longer will be important too. I think Georgia Tech has a very good offensive line. I don't see BC having a huge amount of success crashing the offensive line like they did against UVA. That being said, if they can hold the ball just a little longer and get home on some of these plays, that might cause the turnovers that are going to be essential if BC is going to win this game. BC needs turnovers. And that, as Jeff Hafley said, and what I've heard before, might mean more zone coverage. Get your eyes on where the quarterback is throwing the ball and jump routes. You got smart guys. The staff thinks the guys are smart. I have no doubt that they are. Get them out there in some zone and see if you can make some plays. With BC's offense, the one thing that I think is missing is they're averaging 20, it seems like 28 points or 27 points a game under Thomas Castellanos, because they're scoring 27 points literally every game. The piece that's missing has been the key turnovers for the offense. They've had a few here and there, but they haven't been consistent enough. Say Haynes King is at the 20-yard line of Georgia Tech. He throws a bad interception. You get the ball at the 40. Now you're cooking with oil here. I would love for BC to be aggressive in terms of trying to make plays like that. I haven't seen a ton of in years past, and it might actually be more of an issue in terms of tackling. I haven't seen a lot of ripping at the ball, but I'd love to see some more of that. That's a great way to get some fumbles going. And then the last piece that I think is important with this defense is BC just needs to be smart. A lot of times it seems when you're watching Boston College, when they're struggling, guys start to get lost. Guys start to go into areas where they're not supposed to be. They lose control. They lose their gap integrity. Against Army, their eyes, when you're playing a team that does a little bit of misdirection and option type stuff, their eyes were all over the place, and certain guys were struggling with that. That kind of stuff needs to clear up. And you're playing a much more standard spread. I think they're going to be more spread. Mitch will talk more about this tomorrow. But you're playing a much more typical offense here, so you won't have to do that. But there's still areas where you can make mistakes. They've made mistakes against every team, whether it's penalties or things like that. If this defense has taken that next step, you're going to see Donovan Azaraku become that leader on the defense to that factor, that it factor that's going to be hard for Georgia Tech to scheme for. He was that against against UVA. We haven't seen it since. but it's only one game. Will he be able to continue with what, it sounds like Jeff Hafley schemed things, and that could be putting pressure around him in ways that get him more favorable matchups. They got to continue doing that. They've got to figure out, even if he's being double teamed, they're stunting towards his side, whatever they're doing, they need to figure out, BC, ways to get him loose. And I think that's going to be a major factor. In terms of the secondary, I would love to see a game plan that, that's a little similar to what they did against Florida State. Florida State, they played a lot of athletes, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, and by jamming them up at the line, they were able to really screw up the rhythm of Jordan Travis, and it stopped some faster wide receivers from doing a lot. I would love to see a little bit of that too. Like, get back into jamming guys. And I'm sure they've been doing that, but I'm just saying, looking at this game, when you're playing a good passing offense, try to be physical at the line of scrimmage. I'm a big fan of the Patriots. That's been something they've done for years. I would love to see BC do the same thing. And I think that could be a big key for them to win this game. When I look at the end results, what do I need to see for BC to win this? Haynes King, I would love to see him throw 2 interceptions. That would be a factor, I think, that would be very, very favorable for BC. Have him in the 220 range in terms of passing. You're not going to shut him down completely, but you can't let him throw for over 300. Something like that. And then try to just basically, do what you got to do against the run, because I don't think the run's going to be a major factor in this game. I think it's going to be a lot of passing, but when they do run, you need to be able to be clear there too. Now, in our final segment, I am going to look at the special teams. I'll talk a little bit about that and what I need to see from the special teams for them to win this game. And I will get into as well, just overall game plan stuff from the staff, what I need to see, hopefully, from the staff that's going to help them win this. Now, there's a lot going on in the world with unrest in the Middle East, fires in Hawaii, all sorts of things. The Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. It is great. Like, if you care about your family, if you're looking for things to protect your family, Jace case is the thing to get. Jace Medical now offers customizability for your Jace case with dozens of add-on medications. You can choose the medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. So, you can get a gift card for your family or loved one so that you can get a Jace case of their own. There's options here for Jace. So go to jacemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. Locked On BC, I'm your host, AJ Black. Hope you all are doing well. I want to say, if you have not checked it out already, go to Eagle Insider. It's in the show notes. I want you guys to bookmark that page. We are the fastest growing subscriber and free BC site out there. And we have a ton going on over this weekend. You're going to see a ton of content. Hit that up so you get all the latest BC information from the guys that know it best, me, Mitch, and BC hockey bloggers. So check that out. Now, let's wrap up our show. I told you how the offense has to play to win this game, and I expect what I want to expect from the defense in order for them to win. And that was the defense. We're going to see a lot more than we've seen in the last couple games. A complete game. Now, in terms of special teams, for BC to win this, they've got to limit stupid mistakes. They haven't, when you look at their ratings for their special teams on Pro Football Focus, it's not bad. They're like a 70, which is not bad for a group that, it's not the perfect, but it's not like it's a hindrance to them. But they've let up big plays here and there. The Army game, there was that big kickoff return to start the second half. There was the missed extra point. They just need to limit the amount of mistakes that they have. And I would love to see an opportunity for Lewis Bond on punt returns to make a play too. We saw this against UVA. This guy, when he gets the ball in his hands, is electric. He's got great balance and change of motion. He's not Zay Flowers, but he does some things that is elite in terms of his ability to move with the ball in his hands. Love to see some things there. And, if you get opportunities to put points up, if they stall out in the red zone, which you obviously hope that they don't, you hope Liam Connor can take advantage and hit those 3 points for you on field goal attempts, right? All of those are going to be important factors in this game. All of those are things that have been factors in different games that we've seen this year. But to wrap this up, let's look at the staff. In terms of their overall game plan, what does this need to be for BC to win? This cannot be a game like UVA or Army, where you play half a game of football and expect to win. BC took off the first half of UVA. They took the second half off against Army on defense, at least. They need to play stronger for 4 quarters. I worry when I look at this game that BC's coming out of a bye week, and I think even Hafley said it earlier, that he hopes that there's no ring rust, or I'm talking wrestling terms here. There's no rust on the team, right? When you're looking at a team coming off a bye week, they kind of lose their momentum a little bit. And with a team like BC that has had issues with continuity in terms of consistency in their play and all that stuff, I'm a little worried. So I want to see BC come out clean, not revert back to some of the issues that bit them to start this season, and get things going. So my hope is that the staff has really kind of ingrained, the penalties, hopefully with Castellanos being there for 6 to 7 weeks now, that should be cleared up. That, a lot of the mental mistakes that have been kind of biting them have kind of cleared as well. I hope that. And, I think too, when I look at what I want the staff to be, what their game plan to be, is I hope they continue to be aggressive. I like what Hafley has done there. I haven't really talked about this yet. BC has taken the most 4th down attempts in the entire country, and I kind of dig it. I've always loved that school, and I don't remember which one is. Is it the mining school or one of those schools that never punts? I don't want BC to be like that. But when it's 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, and you're not like buried back in your own zone, go for it. Keep doing that. It's a big difference between Hafley and what Adazio used to do. I would love to see more of that. Just keep being aggressive. Like, nothing is worse than losing when you're playing conservative. And I don't think Hafley is conservative. And I don't think someone was saying to me they thought the offensive game plan's been vanilla. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, there's a lot going on these offenses, and I think they've got a lot going. Let Castellanos loose, get Garo established, keep the defense off the field as much as you can, and you're going to win this game. On tomorrow's show, I will give my prediction. I'm still not sure what I'm going to go with yet, but I'm thinking about it, and I will make my predictions for tomorrow with Mitch. So Mitch and I will be on the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on Locked On BC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review and a comment. Tell us why you like it. You do both if you can. That'd be great. So this is AJ Black. We'll be back again tomorrow. Again, follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Love y'all. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.